Hey everybody, it's your boy Helix, and today we're going to be learning how to make a simple but professional looking Twitch stream layout and OBS Streamlabs software. So let's jump right into it. So now that you've decided to start streaming, the first step that we need to do is download OBS Streamlabs. What you'll want to do is search up Streamlabs on Google or whatever your search engine is, and this should be the page that you come up to. All you'll want to do is click this download right here, download Streamlabs OBS, Open Broadcasting Software, and once it fully downloads, just open it and run it, and then accept the recommended settings because the advanced settings we'll go through here in a little bit, but it changes varied on your PC specs. Okay, so when you first open up OBS Streamlabs, this whole preview window right here will be solid black. There will be no scenes, no display captures or anything. The first thing that you want to decide as a streamer though is what platform you're going to stream to. I personally broadcast to Twitch, but you might want to broadcast to Mixer, to Facebook, to YouTube, whatever you want. That's your decision. But the first thing you want to do is come down to settings, then open up your stream tab, and then link your YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Mixer account to this OBS software. And it's relatively easy to do. It usually asks for a stream key, which you will find on your actual account. And then I'll link these two. And what that does, when we go live, what is shown here on your preview window is what you'll be streaming. So now we just have to set up everything on the preview window to what we want to see on stream. Okay, so before we go too far in depth with setting up our webcam and our microphone and our gameplay capture, let's go to our settings. And this should vary between your computer specs, but first let's go to the video tab. And our base canvas resolution should usually be at 920 by 1080p because that's full screen for your game capture, and that is what you're streaming. And the output scaled resolution is what your viewers are seeing. So it's very important that you keep these two things the same. And then your downscale filter should remain at 32 samples, common FPS values, and 60 frames per second. Now, if you start to notice your stream dropping frames, it could be a good idea to drop your common FPS values to 48 or 30. It still looks pretty decent and you're not dropping as many frames. And another thing you can do is once we go into our output settings, I like to keep our output mode in advanced so you can see all the options. Another thing we can do is drop our preset qualities down and your profile qualities down just to keep you from not dropping as many frames. But okay, so now that we're in output mode, encoder. This is very important. If you're using a NVIDIA GeForce graphics card, then I highly suggest you use NVENC New, because what this does, this utilizes your graphics card to support your GPU and CPU so it doesn't bottleneck when you're streaming. And when you use this option, you should definitely keep your bitrate over 5000 to 6000 because it won't do anything less than that. But if your computer's hardware and CPU and GPU are good enough, you should probably use the 264 option, I believe it is. But just because that option is there for the NVENC to help that bottlenecking, I always use NVENC no matter what. And then once again, you'll have to test with your qualities and profile with your own computer specs to see what works for you. This is just what works for me. This is my recommended settings. I'm using a GeForce RTX 2070 with a i7 Intel Core processor. So that's what I use, and I usually run at 1080p when I stream. Now I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking to be a successful streamer, you need all these fancy overlays, all these fancy animations, and all that bullshit. But no, all you really need to be a successful streamer is your gameplay video your microphone, and definitely a webcam. Okay, now it's time to actually start setting up what your stream is going to look like. To do this, the first thing you're going to need to do is create a new scene, which I have titled stream down here. To do this, you just hit this plus icon. It'll ask you to create a new scene. You'll type in what you want that scene to be. Preferably, I usually keep it set as stream or YouTube or whatever you're using it for. You can use it for either. So once you do that, you would hit done, but I'm just going to keep this one for purposes. And then the first thing you're going to want to add is your display capture. And just like your scenes, you just hit your plus icon, and then this little window will pop up. And we're going to go to display capture. And the same thing, you would add it and it would ask you what you want to name it. I usually just keep it named display capture. And it's important that you know the difference between display capture and game capture, which I'll show you here in a little bit. But the difference is display capture is what's on your desktop. So like if I were to minimize right now, if I were to just pull this around, you'd see what's on my desktop, right? So like what's back here, what's on this screen, right? But when you're in a game capture, it only captures the game window. So like if I were to launch like Dark Souls or anything that's full screen, it will capture that. So, but it's important to know this just in case you ever want to show something like you're doing a tutorial like this. You can, show what you're doing. But I always have a display capture up. So the next thing that we're going to add in is we're going to add in our video capture device. Now this is what you want to use for your webcam. Now it'll ask for your built-in webcam, your Logitech webcam, and you can also use this for your capture cards, like an Elgato HD60 or whatever you use. And then you just add source, and then you'll rename it. I'm just going to rename it webcam. And as soon as you add it, it should default to whatever's plugged into your USB. Usually is the first thing. If you have a laptop, it's gonna pick up your crappy little laptop mic and webcam. So what I use, this is just an HD webcam eMeet C960. It's a $40 webcam you could pick up on Amazon. It's really nice. It shoots in 1080, and it usually is I think it's a 19 by 20 by 1080 window. But you can crop these in your webcam properties, which I'll show you in a little bit. But what we want to do here, I'll pull this window up a little bit. Everything on these settings will stay the same. And for your audio output mode, we'll use a custom device. Sorry, that was my dog. We'll use a custom audio device, and it'll ask you what you want to use for a second line. Whoops. And we'll select, I like to use my Blue Snowball mic. It's my best quality mic. And once again, it's like I think I picked mine up for like 80 to 100. It's a cheaper mic, but it's really good quality for what you're buying. So you'll want to select this. And the reason you want to select this on the use custom audio device, because if you add a webcam, it's going to add in your mixer tab, which is right down here. See how it's added webcam and how I've muted it? If I were to leave it open, you're going to hear an echo. And that's because the webcam has its own built-in microphones, and that's why when you select that option, it'll default to your whatever device you've selected instead of using an extra pair of ears, essentially is what it is. Okay, so once you've done all those settings, it's just the one, then you can start to decide where on your stream you want to have your face capture. Now, a couple of tips, I guess. I know how I use a green screen, and I can show you how to do that, but I can also do that in another video. It's just a short little thing. We'll probably do it separate. But if you don't have access to a green screen, a couple tips would be to organize your room. Make it look cool, like personalize. Like remember, when you're streaming, you're building a connection with your audience. So like I play guitar, so sometimes I'll have my guitars back in my background and people will ask about it. And there you go. You're building a connection with your audience. I know some people have cool lights, or some people have it like on their side and it shows all their cool lighting on their desktop, and people might ask you about, oh, what's your computer specs, stuff like that. Just make the stream presenting you and what you have to offer your audience, essentially. I mean, if you look at it that way. But I use a green screen because most of the stuff I do on streaming is mostly gameplay intuitive, so I like to keep the focus on the game, but still interactive, because the webcam is your portal to talking to your audience. No one likes talking to a screen. Just essentially, the webcam is probably going to be your most important piece of equipment when you're streaming. So what I like to do is I usually keep mine in the bottom right hand corner, but you can size it whatever you want it to be. But when you're using a green screen, your face cam can be a little larger because you're not getting all this extra background. It's not taking up your screen. That's why I prefer a green screen. But if you're just starting out, decorate your room and personalize your stream. That's essentially what you're doing. You just want it to look professional and simple, because we're most likely building on a budget. Okay, so once you have your webcam display all fixed, now we're going to add in our mic. Okay, so I'm going to move my webcam over here so you can actually see what I'm doing, because what we're doing is now we're messing with the mixer. Okay, you see how your mix aux, this is essentially what your microphone is. Yours might automatically pick up something, but if it's not the microphone you want, like the webcam, we'll go to this little gear cog and we'll go to properties, and right there it should say device. What device are we using for a mic? Like I said, I use my Blue Snowball preferably over everything else. So you click done. And also another thing, like on desktop audio, you can desktop audio is whatever your desktop is hearing. And this is important if you're running like dual monitors. You can select which monitor is making the noise, because if your game capture is on one monitor, that's where the source is coming from. It's coming from that HDMI cable, DHI cable, stuff like that. So the same thing, you would go to properties and like device. I use a Astro mixer, so I use my game audio. That's what I'm hearing through there. But normally mine just defaults to it. If you want it to be whatever you want it to be, I would just choose it independently or whatever you want to do. And you can also add in another audio source. So like say if you are streaming and you have friends that you're listening to like through Discord, anything like that, you can add in another source essentially into your mixer bar and make it dedicated to what you're hearing through your earphones rather than your mic. So on and so forth. I know I'm rambling, but there's a lot to know, and we can talk about it more in depth if you guys would want that. Okay, but the next thing that you're going to want to add in, now since we got our mic, we got our webcam, we got our display, and now the main event of streaming, if you're streaming games, is your game capture. So you're going to want to add game capture, and it says right there on the first bullet point, built-in, works with most modern computer games. Sorry. We'll add a source. I just usually leave it as game capture, that way I know what it is, and you don't have to mess with any of the settings. Its default settings are mostly what everyone uses anyway. So we click done, and you notice it won't show up. But here's another important thing. When you're down in your sources tab, when you're using a webcam and overlays we can also talk about in another video, make sure they're over top of the game capture tab, because it will not show up if, like, say if I wanted to put my display capture over my webcam, you won't see me because it's layered. So we want to keep our game capture up there, but you also want to keep your webcam above it, also with your layers and like your alerts that we'll add in later, or your chat box for your stream. You want all that stuff to be above your game capture. Okay, so now if I were to open a game, which I will do here in a second. I just have to open Steam, and we'll open something simple like Dark Souls. Yep, it's right there. It's my first thing played. Okay, so now what you're gonna have to remember is it's not gonna be, hey, launch a game and you're good to go. Make sure after you launch a game to Alt Tab out and select your game capture window and resize your game window, because it will be most likely not set correctly. And now you can see what I was talking about, the display capture window, which is this window, compared to your game capture window. They're two different windows. But and if say you don't want to have your display capture window open, you don't really have to. You can hide it. Well, hang on. It's kind of hard to see, but like down here in your display capture where my cursor is right now, you can technically hide it, and then boom, it's gone. But just for utility's sake, I keep it up. But yes, just make sure your game capture or whatever you're streaming is actually expanded to the full size of the window. So now you can see, like here, why I would use a green screen, because the majority of my screen is taken up by my camera. But you could be playing like less intensive games where it's not so focused on the game, it's more focused on you talking to your stream. Like I said, it's user preference at that point. But yeah, that's basically all you need for a simple setup to stream. That's it. Just your webcam, just your mic, just your game capture, and that's it. And that's all you really need. In my next video, we'll go over overlays. I'll talk about the green screen, alerts, and a chat box, and then that's mostly the only other things I would ever add to a stream, because that's as simple as it needs to be. Okay, so I hope this helped you. And there you go, guys. That's all you need to know to have a basic stream set up on Twitch, Mixer, YouTube, or Facebook. So if you have any questions, please leave a comment below, and if you liked the video and thought it was helpful, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out, helps the video out, and helps other people out who want to know how to start too. If you didn't know, I do broadcast on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 5:30 p.m. till late, and hope to catch you over there. And if you want more videos like this, as far as like adding panels or figuring out the whole green screen, I can do a video on that. They're pretty easy, they're pretty short to do. I just wanted to focus on getting a small little video out about just figuring out how to start, because not a whole lot of people know where to start. So thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you next time.